to my YouTube channel Yoga Nest and Ayurveda related topics. We're going to discuss today something that my students forwarded to me again. Because this is what the channel's content is supposed to be about, that you send me the things that you want me to discuss with you, to get into a dialogue. You can always leave me something in the comments, and of course I would love you to subscribe, because this video is a long way to go and we need really some support to just go into the search machines on a nice position. So please like and subscribe, and then send me your comments and send me your next questions. So today's question was, if you have some issues with your chest or with your heart, or you're just recovering from a long-term illness or weakness or fatigue, how you possibly can practice certain asana sequences without putting too much strain on what we call the prana vayu, which is the area around the chest. Because whatever we do, there is a shift in blood supply towards the heart and towards the lungs. And lung and hearts are always connected via the bloodstream and via oxygenation, and of course related to the space within the chest cavity. So if I lift my arms, immediately more blood flow towards the heart, which means it can stress the lungs a bit. And if I inflate my lungs too much, or I have higher inflation of my lungs due to asthma, then I will compromise the space of the heart. So in order to promote your recovery, or to just sustain your ability to hold asana, I want you to show you some variations today. So I'm going to show you now the original pose, and then we're going to see the variations, and so just stick around. Okay, so we're starting with Tadasana position. So the first idea is when we stand, and this can be too straining for some people. So we're now extending the arms sideward, and we're lifting the inner chest up. So we're trying to create some space between our armpit and the arm and the chest. So we're not squeezing, we're not pulling the shoulders down, we're just creating space, and we can gently rotate the palms out. But already for some people, as I said, it might be too straining. So what could be the first variation? I'm just also showing you sideways. So again here, the focus here now is on lengthening the spine, and then very gently pulling up your inner groins towards the navel, while the navel is moving inside and up, which is Samana Vayu, and we are creating space for the chest. So this would be the first variation. It's not Shavasana, just be very clear, we're going into Tadasana. So we're looking into resting spine on the floor. How can we achieve that? So the first thing is we gently lift our feet a bit up, and then pulling the skin of the iliosacrum on the mat, so we're extending the lower spine, and we're then pushing the legs firmly into the floor. So I'm already doing a lot of isometric stretch, and there's quite some extension here on my groin area and the area where the thighs just hit the torso. So I'm now extending my breathing into the back of the spine, into the back of the lungs, and if my muscles would have my chest, very gently my rib cage is moving in and sinking. So what we want to avoid is this position. We don't want the chest bone to move towards the chin. We want the chest bone, in fact, to gently sink into the body towards the spine. We want the extension here of our groin area, and we want the firmness of the spine. So when I'm now putting my arms down, and again I'm lifting my upper chest, I'm quite firm, and I can regulate really finely how much tension and how much power I'm going to use. My heels are tucked on the floor, my thigh bone is descending, and the quadriceps is descending. So I'm broadening my whole body here on the mat. So the next pose would be moving from Tadasana into Urdhva Hastasana. So here I'm trying not to lift my shoulders towards my ears. In fact, I'm lifting my rib cage, and particularly my back ribs, lifting higher and higher. And then I can look up towards my middle finger. I have to make sure that my wrists are open and firm on both sides, and the stretch is coming from the middle finger. So I'm having an extension from the middle finger through the middle of the armpit, to the middle of the hip, and the middle of the ankle bone. So I'm now extending my side ribs, I'm extending my back ribs, so I'm avoiding this arch. So if I lift my back ribs up, I'm giving a nice extension to the psoas muscle, and I'm also lifting my chest and creating more space here on my back where the most oxygenation is happening. So we're going to watch the same thing now lying down. So lying down again in Tadasana. Again, the little swoop. Spreading the thigh bones, spreading the pelvic area, spreading the muscles, and from here I gently extend and I go into Urdhva Hastasana. Now again I could lift my head and extend my side chest even more, but I always try to avoid the back arch and the lifting of the floating ribs. In fact, the floating ribs are trying to connect to each other as much as possible. So from the middle finger now, I'm extending the back of the chest, keeping my breathing soft and normal. So for the next sequence, we are trying to go to Tadasana, Urdhva Hastasana, and from here we're moving forward into Ardha Uttanasana, which is this position. This position, when you're feeling weak, strained, is quite hard to maintain. So one variation would be that you're stretching your arms backwards, so you're having your chest parallel to the floor. We want to avoid this to happen, where you're coming from Urdhva Hastasana into this position or into this position. And in order to learn how to maintain the pelvic region compact and the back of the spine lengthened, we're also doing this as a floor exercise, and we're already now moving into the third position. So we are going back to Tadasana. From Tadasana into Urdhva Hastasana, and from Urdhva Hastasana, now again we're extending the iliosacrum and we're lifting the legs up. So now we're having Ardha Uttanasana in supine position. Again, we want to avoid this. We want to avoid any shortening of the neck. We want to avoid any pressure of the throat. We're aiming for a gentle sinking of the thigh bone into the pelvis. So now there's no strain here. My legs are soft, but still my bones are spreading in the pelvic region, and I'm lifting my back up the ribs. So I'm broadening my chest. Okay, so the next position is something that most people enjoy. It is something we call Balasana, where we are spreading our knees slightly, but not too much, so that our outer ribs and the soft ribs are lying firmly on our thighs. There's a lot of misunderstanding, and I use it very often as a kind of a funny situation in my teaching, that when you go into Balasana, that many people just collapse in that position, and when they come up, they always have this red mark on the forehead. So in Balasana, we are aiming, as much as in Ardha Mukha Virasana, we're aiming to put the weight where it belongs, on the legs and on the pelvis, but we never put any weight on the chest, we never put any weight on the head. That's just a basic rule which you can apply in any asana. So you're watching this now. We're going into Ardha Mukha, and we are gently and firmly pressing the palms, and the pelvic region is heavy, and we're heavy on the shin bones, and we're extending the toes nicely. And again, the back ribs are moving towards the front ribs, and the front ribs are moving towards the back ribs. From here, we can gently and smoothly transition into Ardha Mukha. Again, most weight is on our legs. We're trying not to do a back arch. We're trying not to put weight on our arms. There's about 60 to 70% weight on our thighs. The heels can be extended, heels can be up, but when your heels are up, make sure that your shin bone is moving up and back and not sinking, and that your thigh bone is actually descending. So now we're going to watch this again in the floor position. So we are moving our knees towards our chest, extending the back ribs, and we could either go into the Balasana position, which would be this, where again we're having quite an extension of the spine and our shoulder blades are firmly resting on the floor, or we're going into Ardha Mukha Virasana, where we then extend our arms backwards, and we're gently trying to move our knees towards the chest. Again here now we can very gently and firmly continue stress on our body or release. So whenever you feel, now I'm doing too much for my chest, I feel that my heartbeat goes up, that my breathing goes hard, then you just release it, okay? So from here we would go into Ardha Mukha, which means we're extending the legs backwards, we're maintaining the straightness of the spine, and then we are extending our arms. So I'm now into Ardha Mukha without putting any strain on my body. The longer I keep it, the more I'm actually isometrically creating strength and firmness of my muscles and my fibers. So we're now doing the last two asanas of this sequence. So we're going from Dandasana, gently transitioning into Chaturanga Dandasana. Okay, so now we're going to have the full sequence. Okay, we're starting with Tadasana. So extend your heels, broaden your thighs, broaden your pelvic area, hug your ribs towards the stomach, relax your spine, and if you want, you can give yourself a little bit of extension from the pelvic floor. So, Tadasana, gentle breathing. Urdhvastasana, extension of the side of the body, lengthening the side of the body. Full stretch, open your lungs, relax your heart. Allow your heart to sink into the cavity, stop your heart from ascending, descend your heart. From here, we are going into Ardha Uttanasana. Spine is resting on the floor, upper arms are resting on the floor, index finger is resting on the floor. From here, we're going into Ardha Mukha. Gentle breathing. Heart is descending. Broaden your rib cage. From here, we're going into Dandasana. So now you can apply more and more pressure as if you're isometrically pushing into the ceiling. And from Dandasana, we are moving into Chaturanga Dandasana. Means we are bringing our mount of the feet towards us, toes relaxed, arms on the floor, strong extension of the metacarpals and the metatarsals. Your chest is still resting on the floor, maintain the resistance. Push back into Dandasana. From Dandasana, go into Ardha Mukha Svanasana. From Ardha Mukha into Urdhva. From here, bring your heels down, extend your spine, extend your spine, extend your spine, and go back into Tadasana. And now you can repeat this several times, as much as you want, but always make sure that you're not applying more stress on your chest that feels comfortable. It's always important whenever we go into yoga, and particularly if it's yoga for recovery or people who had heart surgery before or having some other health issues, that you maintain the comfortable position. Comfortable doesn't mean that it's lazy or collapsed. That's a big misunderstanding. Comfortable means that you are breathing properly, that you are also aiming for a little bit more weight, that you're aiming for a little bit more of concentration. Comfortable is not laziness. Comfortable is respecting your boundaries and very gently just maintaining that awareness inside the pose. There is no comfort without awareness. Comfort without awareness is collapsing, and we don't want this. And if we put too much strain, we're going into our normal effort, into our normal competitive mind, which is also contradicting any yoga effort. So to find this little boundary within yourself, which is just fluid, and it can change from day to day, you stick with me for the next videos on yoga, and I'm very happy that you joined the session, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again very soon, and enjoy your own classes, and just leave me a comment. I'm very curious how you feel about this floor transition from asanas. Thank you very much. Have a good day.